Welcome to the Smart Business Revolution.
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 You want a revolution?
You say you want a revolution?
Revolution. The revolution.
It's going on right now.
Welcome to The Revolution, the Smart Business Revolution podcast, where we ask today's most successful entrepreneurs to share the tools and strategies they use to build relationships and connections to grow their revenue. Now, your host for The Revolution, John Corcoran.
All right, welcome everyone. John Corcoran here. I'm the host of this show. You might know a little bit about me. I'm a recovering political hack and a recovering lawyer. Spent many years working in politics, including as a speechwriter with stints working in the Clinton White House for a California governor, and spent years practicing law in Silicon Valley, San Francisco Bay Area. And, in 2010, about 10 years ago, I discovered the medium of podcasting, and I've been doing it ever since. And it's one of the best things I've ever done and the most time-saving, because rarely do you ever get to do something that is so many things at once. It's up-leveling your network, it's business development, it's referral marketing, it's producing content, it's all that kind of stuff. And over 10 years of hosting the show, I've had the privilege to talk with so many great CEOs, founders, entrepreneurs, and all kinds of different companies. And today I'm also the co-founder of Rise25, where we help B2B businesses with the strategy and production they need to create a podcast that produces tremendous ROI and connects them with their ideal prospects and referral partners. And, before we get started with today's guest, Dr. Jeremy Weisz, back again this week, I'm going to give a big shout out to Nick Aracco over at Achieve Next, which is a community for CHROs and CFOs. If you are a CHRO or if you're a CFO, go check it out. They provide a unique combination of peer advisory networks and specialized human capital performance solutions to enhance leaders and their teams. So check them out, achievenext.com. And first, before we get into this episode, of course, I want to mention that this episode is brought to you by Rise25 Media, where we help B2B businesses to get clients, referrals, and strategic partnerships with done-for-you podcasts and content marketing. We specialize in helping B2B businesses with a high client lifetime value. So if you want to learn more about that and get some inspiration and ideas about how to get clients, referrals, and some of the best friendships of your life through a podcast, go to rise25media.com, or you can also email us, support@rise25media.com. And Jeremy, before we launch into the topic today, which is, of course, how to get more referrals, we're going to talk about 3 to 4 different strategies for how you can get more referrals. I'm going to cover today's obsession. Now, this is a new feature on the show that Jeremy's never.
We should leave that for the end,
but I'm leaving it for. And Jeremy has different insane, bizarre fixations or obsessions, I guess you might call it, on different things. Today's topic is blenders. We were talking about it before the show. And Jeremy, in case you don't know, I'm a very health conscious guy. And we were just talking beforehand about how this is the wild and crazy life that he lives. One day he woke up and he had this crazy idea he was going to replace his blender. So Jeremy, your obsession of the day, blenders, share it with us.
Yeah, I mean, it relates to a bigger, better topic, which is health, right? And over 20 years ago, I got a Vitamix, which at the time when you buy a $500 blender, you were deemed insane. This is before Costco now has Vitamixes, obviously, but this is before anyone had heard of Vitamix. It was maybe a commercial blender, but that was like all the money I had. Like it went towards this blender. And anyways, so now
like you to spend all your money on one
thing.
I
was watching a YouTube video where it was like Blend Anything, if anyone hasn't seen those.
Oh, those are
great. And it's a blend tech. They basically put a cell phone in the blender and pulverize it. I'm like, I need a blend tech. my Vitamix still works amazing after 20 years, but I need a blend tech. So that's the obsession.
Well, you did give me a Vitamix, which was very kind of you a couple years ago. And I have to say it's one of the best gifts I've gotten in quite a long time. It is amazing. Those things just can blend the crap out of anything. So, but
when you have 4 kids, you need to be able to pulverize anything and like produce healthy things. So yeah,
exactly. But you're such a wild and crazy guy to just wake up some morning and just decide I'm going to replace my blender with
that's
a
as wild
blender.
as I get.
That's pretty off the hook off in suburbia there for you. So, all right, we're going to talk about referrals, how to get more referrals. And we got a couple of different strategies, how to get more referrals today quickly, because everyone wants more referrals. But it's hard, right? It's hard to just reach out to your clients and say, can you refer me someone? Do you have any good clients and, that you can introduce me to? Because no one wants to do that unless they know that person needs to meet someone like you. they don't want to introduce them because they know they're putting them into possibly like a sales conversation, right? So the question is, how do you get more referrals for your business? So Jeremy, start us with strategy number one.
Yeah, the first one is, I love this one, which is it's very simple. And we always like to leave with giving, not asking, right? And so this one is, the best way to get referrals is to give referrals and make introductions without expecting anything in return. So making introductions and giving referrals. So what I tell people is like, listen, look at your network, look at the people who are big champions of you, who you just love what they do, and think of who in your network maybe should be introduced to those people for what they do. And make an introduction, maybe talk. I always do a double opt-in introduction, and so do you, John. So I'll reach out and go, hey, I really wanted to connect you, one of our good friends and, amazing human being, Dan Cashel. So if I think Dan is like a marketing genius, hey, like, have you talked to Dan before? Like, I think he would create some breakthroughs for you. Here's his bio. Just chat with them. I'm not saying to the person you should use them as a service, but chat with them, and same thing with Iron Garlic, our friend Iron Garlic. Like, someone, needs to up-level their business by creating a video case story of their clients. Then I'm like, listen, have you done this lately? You haven't done this ever? You need to talk to Iron. He'll give you tips. And, those people are givers, so we know they're going to show up on the phone and provide a ton of value, and also it's not going to be like a salesy conversation. They're going to provide a ton of value, and the person's going to thank us for introducing us to Ian or Dan or whoever it is. So I would challenge someone to look at your network, see who you just love what they do. Maybe there's two people you love what they do, and you haven't introduced them. They should be talking to each other, and maybe they could be referring to each other. Who knows? So make introductions, make referrals.
So follow-up question, I want to know from you what you do in order to make that process more painless, because it can't, part of the reason people don't do it is just can be really time consuming.
Yeah.
And then also caveat, do you always do double opt-in, or are there any circumstances where you don't?
Well, I wouldn't say always, maybe 90% of the time double opt-in. Okay. But I know people enough that they would say yes. So sometimes I won't. Okay. Like if it's someone that I'm introducing to you, I'd be like, I know John's going to love this person. Like, I know you well enough that I will just make the introduction over to you. But so it depends how well I know the person, but that's a good point. Like if you make 10 to 30 introductions every day, that's like could equate to 3 hours. And I don't have stock in this company, by the way, nor do I get an affiliate commission in this company. And you already know what I'm going to say, but, one of the best purchases I've ever made in my life for business is Text Expander.
What is that?
It's a whopping $4 a month. I'm going to get 30 cents of affiliate commission. No, there's no affiliate commission there. Text Expander is a desktop app where you can load up in the cloud a response or a bio of someone. Like I have John Corcoran, so I have a short code that's intro John Corcoran. And when I type that in anywhere on my computer, in my email, in Facebook, in LinkedIn, anywhere, a nice pre-written, formalized introduction that I have saved for you pops up. And so I could just say, John Corcoran, meet Ian Garlic. And then I already have, Ian's thing saved in there. It takes 2 seconds, by the way, just to save it in there. And then I say, hey, you guys should chat. Boom, here's John's intro. Boom, here's Ian's intro. And I give you guys background on each other.
And by the way, you can use it for other things too, all kinds of different things across different programs. I'm a huge fan of it as well. You just type in a couple of letters that you've designated yourself and boom, and it could be 1,000 words of text that get spit out. So that's a great tip.
Someone mentioned we should have Text Expander. Reach out to them. They should be a sponsor of our LinkedIn Lives.
They should actually. So I will point out that when I do introductions, I'm the same way. I'm a big believer in double opt-ins, except if I know that, like, for example, someone wants to be a guest on podcasts and I'm introducing someone to be a guest on a podcast, then I may just do it directly because I know they're interested in being guests on podcasts.
Yeah.
But I've been the recipient of introductions where it's awkward. You're not sure why the people are introducing you. That's another reason to use Text Expander, by the way, because I have a whole intro template built out where I include in that why I think they should connect, which I think is critical. And also asking them to set a time quickly, like in the next 2 to 3 weeks, because otherwise a lot of times people just don't take action on these things. So
not that I love the term super connector, but Michael Roderick, I would consider a super connector. And he is really a big proponent of making it specific, making sure people know why you're introducing them, not like, hey, I think you guys should know each other, but there's an actual reason why, and giving those people the specific reason. So it also helps frame the call. When those people get on the call, you've already helped frame the call. So it's not an awkward call when they get on the call with each other. Like, John, I think you'd be a good guest for Ian's show.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So that was point number 1. Point number 2 was that you should pay to support your biggest advocates and champions. What do you mean by that?
I mean, so if you have friends and you think their services are awesome, I think we're big advocates and proponents of like paying them, like actually hiring them and paying them. Like if we work with Ian, who's a friend, Ian Garlic, who's a friend, like we want to pay him. We don't expect it for free, and we want to pay him what he, it's hard work, and he's spending the time, energy, and money. So we don't expect it, and we want to pay them.
Right. Exactly.
And just being like looking at the biggest advocates in your universe and joining their programs, buying their stuff, hiring them for things only if it makes sense.
Yeah.
But we're big advocates of that.
So paying to support your biggest advocates and champions is point number 2. Point number 3, have a podcast, of course. How do you use the podcast to get more referrals? Yeah.
I mean, again, like it goes back into the whole premise, the whole thing about referrals is to give. And we're looking at ways to give to our network. And one of the best ways to give to our network is to have a podcast, because I can profile, just like we're doing here, we're profiling thought leadership. We're profiling what they're doing on our podcast and then spreading it across, as you know, when you put out a podcast, it goes across 15 or more channels. You can put on your blog. It goes on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, now Amazon podcasts. And so you put across so many platforms and you're shooting them out to the universe, and it's all about them. And so a podcast is a great way to give to your network. It's a great way to up-level your network and increase your network's authority. In the same sense, you are helping your own authority as well in positioning in the marketplace.
Right, absolutely.
There's so many benefits. I mean, you mentioned like the Swiss Army knife. There's a million benefits, but it comes down to giving to your network. When I ask someone to be on my show, that's a give, and it's a great way to profile them.
And I always cite Dr. Robert Cialdini wrote the book Influence. One of his principles in there for achieving influence is the principle of reciprocity. When you give to others, naturally our human nature is we want to return the favor. For most people, not all, but for many people, they want to reciprocate. And so you're leveraging that principle. So that's number 3. Number 4, have a formal referral program where you pay referral commissions. Now, this is an interesting one. I've heard some differences of opinion on that. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that that's still effective in today's day and age?
I think, yes. I think it just depends how you express it, right? Because, most people aren't, at least in our network, they're not referring because they're expecting any money from it. Mm-hmm. They're referring because they trust you and they think you provide a good service. But, we like to thank people with appreciation, but we also like to thank them with money. And, we also make referrals just because we think it's a fit. Mm-hmm. But, when people say, thank you, this resulted in business, and they send us money for it, we totally appreciate it. And it's not like we're expecting it. So it's not like a transactional thing. It's still because we think it's a fit, or, that's why people are referring. But we'd like to, we had a conversation the other week. Someone referred us a client. We pay a referral commission because that way we don't have to spend it on Google and Facebook. I'd rather pay one of our friends than Facebook, and that's what I tell them. Like, I'd rather pay you than Facebook, so just accept the money. And they go, oh, I didn't expect anything. I didn't realize you even have a referral program or anything. So sometimes people don't even know, but they do appreciate that the gift and the money.
All right. So just to wrap up the 4 points, number one, you should be giving referrals and making introductions. Use a tool like a text expander in order to speed it up so that you can make more introductions more quickly. Always use double opt-in unless you know that there's absolutely going to be a slam dunk between the two. Number two, pay to support your biggest advocates and champions. Join their groups, their programs, do their coaching, hire them. Number three, have a podcast. Leverage the principle of reciprocity. Feature people in interviews. Number four, have a formal referral program where you pay referral commissions to your friends, not because you think that that's totally going to be the reason they make referrals, but because you want to support them. All right, let me ask you last question, Jeremy. Who else out there in your network do you admire who does a great job with referrals, or who is kind of a thought leader around this idea of building your network and generating referrals?
Yeah, there's a couple of people that come to mind right off the bat. John Corcoran is definitely one that is a thought leader in this space. His book, Giftology. I actually, on Inspired Insider podcast, did a top giver series where I thought about who are the biggest givers in my network and get their thoughts and ideas around this. So John Corcoran is definitely one of them. Michael Roderick, who we mentioned. The other one, Kevin Thompson, is always looking to serve and give first. I'm trying to think of, what about you?
Kevin Thompson was definitely one of my most influential interviews on my podcast. You talk about, a podcast as personal development, as professional development. I remember doing the interview with him probably about 5-6 years ago now, and it just opened my eyes to what was possible. Some of the ideas that he had, really great. Andy Hassan comes to mind.
Andy Hassan,
yes. Yeah, he was on your Giver series also. I think David Gonzalez was on your Giver series. I think you have Alex Neum also on your Giver series?
No.
Okay.
You should tell people, like, if you are listening still, comment on, I don't know if you're listening on LinkedIn or the podcast, but email us or comment or whatever you are, and who do you consider the biggest giver in your network? Maybe we should profile them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would love that recommendation. All right, so wrapping things up, Jeremy, where can people go to learn more about you and us and connect with us to learn more about these ideas, referral strategies?
You go to rise25.com. I think we have a cool bantering video. You'll get our personality out, and you can email us anytime. The contact form on rise25.com.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to the Smart Business Revolution podcast with John Corcoran. Find out more at smartbusinessrevolution.com. And while you're there, sign up for our email list and join the revolution.
Revolution.
And be listening for the next episode of the Smart Business Revolution podcast.